So it'll come to, as no surprise to anybody who has known me for any amount of time, that I'll begin with a tangent. I like tangents, okay? Because when done well, they reveal something important about the world, an important truth, that everything is connected to everything else. It's the first law of ecology. You're on it?
Yes.
The done well bit is important, for sure. So I'll ask in advance for a little bit of patience from your side. Because we'll see if all the threads in this conversation start sort of organically, effortlessly cohering into a tapestry. I've been sleeping a little too little, working a little too much, and also I don't know, the world is ending. We blew past 1.5 degrees, aren't exactly reasonably slowing down at all. Had 4 billion more people experiencing an extra month of heat. There's a genocide that is being live streamed and somehow isn't being stopped. And when a 22-year-old activist from Sweden sets sail to Gaza to deliver humanitarian aid, people online start cheering on the possibility that her body and the bodies of the rest of the crew of Freedom Flotilla will be added to the death count of this gaping wound on all our collective histories. And also someone dear to me would have celebrated her 27th birthday yesterday, and she didn't. So I'm just generally a bit stressed out, and I'm a bit exhausted, and exhausted mainly not by work, of which there is much, but by this perceived, at least, need to pretend like everything is okay or okay-ish. And if it isn't all okay, then it isn't our job to fix it. And listen, if you're feeling okay right now, then please make yourself known. I'm curious how you manage. I don't actually want to be able to, but I will try to explain to you why you shouldn't be feeling okay. It's in your best interest to not be okay. And so that's what I'm thinking right now. And even still, after a few years of trying to think about the world all critically, I retain this silly habit of apologizing for not feeling well, or for being late, for not having myself together all of the time. I'm expected to remain calm, right? Because that's the enlightened, civilized way to be the civilized thing to do. If I start reacting to the unreasonableness and cruelty of the world at an appropriate scale, then my occasional civil disobedience will not be considered civil disobedience anymore, and so it will not be tolerated. But I digress, and we started late. I'll try to get back on track. And if I do go on more of these tangents and they don't feel useful, then I'd like to remind you that public talks are always a team effort. So please reel me in. I think with a bit of your help, we'll get the job done. So Marta asked me for this little blurb with which she introduced me a couple of minutes ago, and we had a little back and forth about this yesterday, about whether I should say that I'm with Extinction Rebellion or with Scientist Rebellion, and I guess I'm with both. Is it okay if I'm with both? I technically am also with the Copenhagen University Degrowth Network, with Critique Digitale, with the We Are KU, but I couldn't really decide which to include. I didn't want it to become a laundry list. And it's not like I care about some of these initiatives more than others. I think they're all equally important and all part of the same larger struggle. But I just, regrettably haven't been able to allot as much time to some of them as I wanted to, so maybe that's the reason. But ultimately, I think the important bit is that I'm very, very fortunate to find myself among those rebels who court storms, who hold that the only truth lies in perpetual seeking. I'm quoting Pussy Riot's Nadia Tolkonnikova here, and she's referencing Mikhail Lermontov. The storms line comes from one of his poems. I know this because I come from the territory that is commonly referred to as Russia, and most children on that territory learn this poem by heart in middle school. I'm mentioning this because for over a little 2/3 of my life, I have been immersed in an environment in which Russian fascism has been taking root, sprouting and blossoming into a vile, carnivorous flower. Hi, Fernando. And it's possible that this made me into something of a botanist, at least when it comes to this particular genus, an aspiring botanist at any rate. And I'm mentioning that because it is impossible to talk about AI responsibly without also talking about fascism, because this is a talk about technology, and therefore it must also be a talk about politics and about ideology, because no technology exists outside of nor rises above the material, social, political, cultural, ideological substrate that produces it and which it in turn affects. And I don't know if you've noticed, but there's a whole lot of fascism around lately, and I think that's bad. So yeah, context matters. History matters. And when context is erased, we cease being able to resist and refuse the violent extractivist status quo, to perceive ourselves even as subjects of history. In fact, when context is erased, we cease being able to even recognize that the status quo is violent and extractivist, sometimes even when it affects us directly. If there's one message I want to amplify tonight, it's that context matters. When we keep in mind the context in which AI emerges, its emancipatory, democratizing, liberatory promise disappears. When we keep context in mind, AI is revealed to not be a new thing at all, both because it's been around for 70 years, and also because really it's just a new coat of paint on a very old and very nasty thing, a new manifestation of an old logic. Nothing about AI is or can be revolutionary, only counter-revolutionary. And we need context to see this. If AI is a drop of water of sorts, then its reflective surface allows us to glimpse much of the larger ecosystem in which it exists. And I'm not just or even mainly talking about bias in AI here, but looking at such drops of water and what is reflected in them helps us learn or relearn something about the larger systems in which they are embedded and what we can do to dismantle these systems. And dismantle these systems we must, because frankly, we just don't have much time. In fact, we have been out of time for a while now. You know that quote from William Gibson, "The future is already here, it's just not very evenly distributed." It's like that, but it's, the end of the world as we know it is already here. It's just not affecting everyone equally yet. As a political project and as a paradigm, AI resists contextuality. In fact, erasure of context, historicity, specificity is the very core principle on which AI operates at every level, technical, cultural, political. AI is all about opacity and black boxing, and the efforts of the past few years by some computer scientists and data scientists to work towards explainable AI and fair AI don't really change that, well-intentioned as these efforts may be, and I'm sure that they are in all or most cases. They miss the fact that the black box of the strictly algorithmic aspects of AI exists in this larger black box of AI as a political project. As Yarden Katz puts it in the wonderful, important book, Artificial Whiteness, Politics and Ideology in Artificial Intelligence, computing systems by design excise historical context and are haunted by it. Also imagine that I'm doing air quotes every time I say AI. So that was sort of like the tangent bleeding into the introduction. I don't really have much more prepared. I'll improv the rest. But yeah, it's that's the message. Context really, really matters. Yeah. So let's try to take a look at this and then zoom out a little bit and add some context to this. This is a photo from October, I think, 2024. Denmark proudly opened its first AI supercomputer, and it's kind of remarkable that the degree to which context is absent from this picture, right? It's like the only context that matters here is there's a big techie thing and people are happy and there's a celebration and it's all very bright and shiny. We're in the future, you guys. But I mean, surely there's a little bit more to it than that, right? This is an illustration we'll not be going through in any great detail at all. It's just to sort of like provide a visual tool for comprehending how complicated these things are. This is from from a book and an online project, Atlas of AI, that presents anatomy of an AI system if you actually take into account the context a little bit. So if you imagine this being sort of the ChatGPT prompt or this photo that we just saw, then this is the rest of the everything, and we need to also think about the rest of the everything if we're talking about this. And it'll be a little impressionistic, a little pastiche, what I'm going to say next. But we'll add more details, because it's not possible to cover in 45 minutes or an hour or 5 hours the entirety of this. It's complicated, and that's kind of part of the trick that this thing plays on us. But one of the basic premises that I want to start with is this: AI is made of humans. Right, and there are plentiful examples of this, of how this actually, looks and works. One is that since, for as long as we've had AI, we had this thing called Utochkin AI, where there isn't actually an algorithm in the back end. The company just advertises that this is the thing, and then there's an actual human being that is processing inputs that are meant to be machine read, just because it's silly to not have AI as part of your business strategy, right? That's way before ChatGPT. That's from this report is from 2019, but it's been a thing since going back to earlier also. Does everybody know this picture on the right? Okay, so this is the mechanical Turk. It's an automaton that was constructed in, if somebody's present who remembers the year, please correct me, but I want to say the 17th, maybe 18th century. The idea was that it would be presented to a curious audience as this machine that can play chess really well. It'll maybe outplay you, maybe not, but at least it'll put up a good fight. Of course, the trick was that there was an actual human sitting right there in this little box and moving different levers around so that the machine would produce the appearance of being able to do something. There are cases in which this is blatantly obvious, as with Utochkin AI, but this is the case always with any algorithmic system. There's always a bunch of humans that it was made of at every layer of this infrastructure. And we should maybe care about those humans. I don't know. This is the cover of a report on micro workers, on Syrian refugees in Lebanon that are training AI, and it's a pretty traumatizing, pretty unpleasant kind of existence that they lead, and workers in Kenya, and workers also in the global north that don't have other financial opportunities, and we just accept that these things that we then try really hard collectively to figure out a good use case for, and frankly I haven't seen any successes. We just accept that is part of this equation, right? And so when talking about AI, we need to talk about the context. We need to talk about the means and the ends. We need to talk about how it is being produced. We also need to talk about what it is trying to do, what it's trying to produce. And this brings me to the problem with trolley problems, because for AI, and broadly speaking, for any algorithmic system, for any bureaucracy really, everything is a trolley problem. There's always something that has to give in order for us to move forward on this track of progress, in order to allocate resources to this group and not that group. Because AI can only fundamentally work with the world that is datafied. It can't actually touch in any way reality. It can only touch the datafied, abstracted away reality. And a lot of philosophers, a lot of science and technology scholars point out that there's actually a bunch of really important stuff, essential stuff, that is being thrown out when this abstraction happens. But it is entirely invisible to these systems. Right, so this is a trolley problem, right? If I had another job, I would not accept data annotation tasks, right? But you hear this argument sometimes that, yeah, but at least they have this job, but that is not justifiable, right? That's not the world that we need to accept. Why are we accepting this world? And so this trolley problem only exists because we don't think that it can be any different, or we don't think long enough and hard enough to realize that this is happening to begin with, right? Like you need, and this is again part of the trick, you need to become a little bit curious. It doesn't take much, it doesn't take long. You need to be just like a tiny little bit curious, and then the horror of the world reveals itself to you. Right. So, but like we're having this talk at Greenpeace, Denmark, and it's probably prudent that I mention something about the climate collapse. It's here, and big tech is accelerating it the best they can, and they will continue accelerating the best they can because there's nobody there to stop them. In 2020, Microsoft, along with some others, committed to going not carbon neutral but carbon negative by 2030, and this was the projection. This was the plan, and then it escalated. Their emissions increased by 30%, and that's like early 2024 data. It's gotten worse since then because of AI and the rest of these companies that are investing very heavily into AI because they have to, because they don't know where else to extract more profit from, because like in a very real sense the future and like empty techno-optimist promises are like the last colonial frontier. There isn't anything else to enslave on the planet anymore, so this is now what we're colonizing. So the rest of them followed suit, and like they've been pretty vocal about what they're doing and why they're doing. Right? This is a quote from Brad Smith, the president of Microsoft. "We fundamentally believe that the answer is not to slow down, but to speed up so that AI solves the climate catastrophe that we're creating right now for us." Right? And it's not. I just want to make it very clear. Like, it's not like there's an actual plan there, right? Like, it's just speculation because we live under globalized, financialized, speculative capital. And the thing that it does is it just guesses that if it keeps running long enough, then maybe either the bet will pay off, or the people doing these things right now won't see the future in which it is like ultimately admitted by everybody that this was a little bit silly. Right, there's a quote by Ursula K. Le Guin that I really like. It's all abstract, but it points at that thing. The rationalist utopia is a power trip. It's a monotheocracy. It's declared by executive decree, maintained by willpower. As its premise is progress, not process, it has no habitable present. It speaks only in the future tense, right? Like if you pay attention to the communication by AI companies, it's always like, look at how great this thing is right now, and then there's like some Altman with 4 fingers for some reason, and like a creepy thing in the background happening. Or it's, Google Gemini telling people to put glue on pizza, or it's Amazon being filled with books produced by AI that tell people how to pick mushrooms, and then people actually buy those books, go into the forest, and end up in the hospital, right? Like that's the reality of it today, right? But there's a bright tomorrow that's like ultimately for every big AI company leads into AGI, artificial general intelligence, which again, that's not an architecture, that's not like a concrete plan to get somewhere. It's just like, it's a fairy tale. It's a religious belief that if we just throw enough numbers at each other, then magically they'll produce something useful. In fact, so useful that it will be deemed more intelligent than humans. And like it has been deemed more intelligent than humans a bunch of times. It's just not true. And so they can't really insist on this. But eventually we'll get to AGI. No, we won't. Like there isn't a plan. Even if we could, why would we? Like we're burning the planet down for this. Right, and this carrot, this completely imaginary carrot of AGI, is used to make all sorts of absurd claims. Right, Sergey Brin says that AGI is within reach. If only Google's workers started working 60-hour weeks, so just stop being lazy. Please bring about the AGI. Right, like we can justify any amount of exploitation. We can justify any amount of investment, any amount of adding to the climate collapse, as long as there's this goal that will surely be achieved. And because we're so used to believing anything that sounds sort of like sciencey, it's like, oh yeah, like this is the bright future we were promised. And also we want there to be a bright future, right? We just forgot that like we're the ones that should be making it happen, I think, a little bit. Another quote from Eric Schmidt, also of Google. AI boom is too powerful and has too much potential to let concerns about climate change get in the way. And we're not going to hit climate goals anyway, right? That's a pretty telling line. Line, and you can actually see that, like the ultra rich are getting really scared now, also, right? And this shouldn't be like a reason for us to have like a minute of being happy that they're suffering. Also, the rich cry too. It's like that is very scary. The people that have all of the material, financial resources to do literally anything that is physically possible right now are worried about their livelihood. This is by design, right? This is not a bug. This is a feature. The computer requires the sweatshop. And the cyborg's existence is premised on the slave. That's a Marxist scholar a quote, not mine. I actually don't know how to pronounce his last name, so I will not even attempt to. Right, and this is not about AI. And this is what I mean, that we can look at this as a little drop of water, or like a toxic waste, probably, really, and see in its reflection the rest of the systems that have led us to this place. Because this is not a quote about AI, this is a quote about capitalism. Of course, it's a quote about capitalism, it's a quote about liberal democracy. Right? There's nothing new about AI. It was, the term was coined in 1956, I want to say, by John McCarthy, and it's been a marketing term from inception. The promise of AGI, although it wasn't called that, was also something that was happening right away. Criticism of AI was born also that very same year, or a couple years later. There was this big management conference at MIT, and I want to say it was then that McCarthy said that all intelligence, all consciousness is essentially computable. The only reason we don't have robots as smart as humans yet is because we didn't crunch enough numbers. That was 70 years ago. That's not a new thing. It's a thing that is the latest, purest manifestation of capitalist speculative logic. It's the latest manifestation of the logic of the state, of the liberal democratic state, and that's something that is a less common thing to mention, adding something to capitalism other than coloniality and patriarchy. But radical black thought has demonstrated over the course of the 20th century, beyond any shadow of a doubt. Angela Davis, George Jackson write about how the liberal democracy needs these fascist enclaves. It needs these enclosures where rights don't exist, where law doesn't exist, in order for there to be enough to be extracted, so that there would be a low labor, high-tech product and industry that we can then enjoy. And so, since the word fascism was mentioned a couple of times, I really like the way that Aimé Césaire, I don't speak French, pardon for butchering his name, this is a thing that he said in, I want to say, 1950. Hitler just applied to Europe colonialist procedures, which until then had been reserved exclusively for other places. So again, not just capitalism itself, but liberal democracy that sort of produced it, and with which it's intertwined so strongly, they need this by default. They cannot exist without it. This is the order, the hierarchical ordering of reality that they fundamentally rely on. Right, and if we were to collapse that, if we were to not have this anymore, then we can't have ChatGPT. I'm sorry. This is Sam Altman saying that AI is over if just training on copyrighted works isn't fair use, right? We're not saying anything about micro workers here. We're not saying anything about the blood minerals that go into the GPUs that run all of these models in giant data servers, data centers, that are built on land that is often appropriated without consulting people living there if they want to suffer the consequences of not having this land, but also having pollution associated with it, and the overburdening of the power grid in their particular locale that is a resultant from this, right? This is just copyrighted works. Oh, if we can't just steal everything, then this just cannot exist. And this is despite the fact that even as it is, OpenAI is losing billions because it cannot monetize this bullshit generator. Pardon my French. Are we allowed to say words like this on camera? I don't know. This is the electricity consumption. This is the power consumption of all data centers from 2000 to 2024. Only 16 nations in the world consume more power than data centers. This is silly. We don't need most of this. We don't need most of this. What does it give us? What does it do? Right? So means and ends, they're both kind of bound, but like what is this all for? Like what is this extractivism actually getting us? Well, it's getting us automated genocide and apartheid state preceding it, right? Like it makes it easier to apply very broad schemas about what kinds of humans, what kinds of bodies we deem worthy of survival versus not, faster. Like it doesn't actually do things better, at least in the vast majority of the time, just does things faster. So it allows us to actually not think twice or even at all. You know, the way that Lavender, the AI targeting system that IDF used to, to blow people up, it just it has a built-in high tolerance for error. And the only decision that people actually need to make is to check for a couple of seconds if, maybe sometimes longer than a couple of seconds, but like at the very least a couple of seconds of looking at whether the target that was identified by the system appears femme or masc, and like let's talk about the gender politics of this also maybe in the Q&A, right? But these are the ends, right? Like the AI doesn't do things better; it does it faster. Why do we want things to go faster? Why do we want to not have enough time to stop and think about whether this is a thing that we want to happen at all? Right, and like another thing that it allows to do, right? Speaking of the genocide, it also applies to people that are trying to speak up about it in countries that are just a little bit less well protected from overt fascism than Denmark. And again, it's not about whether this particular thing was a mistake or an accurately identified, dangerous, radicalized protester. It's about the fact that these systems allow us to not care. There's no time to care, and also we don't need to care. Somebody already took care of it. It's magic, right? Like the magic emoji that you always see next to, companies advertising that they now have AI. Like that's what it means. Right. But there are other cases that are meant to do good explicitly. They're not about killing people. They're about transcribing language, right? And OpenAI is very proud of their Whisper. But because it's an LLM and it fundamentally cannot help but just produce nonsense that looks sort of plausible because this is what the model optimizes for, not any truth value. It can't have a conception of one. It's optimizing for, will you believe that this word could actually make sense after this previous word? Like that's the thing. That's the thing that it does. And so, of course, it produces all sorts of inaccurate results that people in the field call hallucinations. Of course, that's not true. You can't hallucinate anything if you don't have anything to hallucinate things with. But it is an erroneous output that doesn't actually make sense. Some academics call it bullshit, like as in the academic category, like the concept of bullshit. And it sounds a little bit polemic, it sounds a little aggressive, and maybe it's meant to. Maybe we should be a little bit angry. Yeah, so how am I doing on time? It's 6. We started. Oh yeah, there's still time. Perfect. Amazing. More examples. So coding assistants, right? One of the popular use cases for this thing. Generally lead to more insecure code being produced. And I think that we're not going to read the abstract. It's just like, I didn't make this up. There's a study that looked into this. With tools that are also suspect because, whatever, that's a bigger conversation. But the point is that these systems not only produce a code base that is very brittle and very insecure, like from the get-go, they also have the side effect of there not being anybody that can debug them because nobody wrote the code. Like nobody wrote the code. Because it goes one of two ways. Either the thing that you want to program is such a simple thing that if you know any programming at all, you'll do it yourself in just about the same time as it would take you to wait for the ChatGPT or a Copilot to load. Or if it's more complicated, or if you literally don't know how to code at all, then you won't be able to understand if it's even doing the thing that it's meant to be doing, right? Like if your code compiles, it doesn't mean that it's actually doing what it's supposed to do, even if you tested it once. Like it might give an output in another edge case scenario that you would have thought about if you were doing this work yourself, but because you're not doing the work, there's nobody to check, there's nobody to think about it. And also this doesn't actually save anybody from work, right? Like the sentiment that is not very frequently explicated, but I'll just claim that this is like the thing that is very common for people to feel. It's like, this is kind of bad, and I feel kind of guilty about even using it. But like, I'm barely keeping it together. You know, guys, capitalism exists. I'm miserable every day. I'll just save myself 5 minutes of time, or half an hour of time, or like I'll automate away all of the nonsense tasks that I'm burdened with every day, right? Well, it doesn't actually save you from anything, right? Because if we all adopt it, or enough people adopt it, then the bar gets higher, right? Like in the case of academia, right? Like there are expectations, generally speaking, that they'll start applying to me soon, about how many papers you're supposed to output per year, right? Like, and that's like a metric that is meaningless in the sense that, like what if you're thinking a thought that doesn't fit into one paper? What if you're producing a paper that isn't a useful output to communicate, right? Like it's not actually measuring like the value of the thing being produced. It just wants a number of things, and it wants more things if possible, right? And with this, it sure is possible to produce more things. They're not going to be good, but we can do more. And as soon as we can do more, the expectation adjusts accordingly. We need to do more. What even is this? I don't have, like, this is a tiny little screen for me to even understand what's written there. Oh yeah, personalized patient preference predictor for substituted judgments in healthcare. So people that for one reason or another cannot themselves communicate what kind of treatment they would want, or if they would want a kind of treatment at all, we can just construct an LLM that will pretend to be them, and it'll tell us what to do, and that is how we obtain consent. Like this, this is stupid, right? Like this is not great. And then there are cases like the one that the Danish Minister for Digitalization and a well-known transphobe really likes citing that, oh yeah, like the new industrial revolution is upon us. We'll use AI to do so many great things in the healthcare sector. We can cut costs. We can, fire so many employees. It'll be great. And what we get instead is that X-ray scans are going to be, analyzed for tumors faster. Again, not better, faster. If you actually look at what happens, like the studies that actually look at what happens to this like assemblage, to this like complex system that includes a radiologist and the scan, and also now this like AI assistant. Like when the system messes up, even very experienced radiologists, even experts in the field, will mess up along with it because they let their guard down. And also this exists at the same time. Like even like let's for a second assume that it actually does make it better, right? Like a better overall sort of outcome in terms of number of tumors that are detected at an early stage. Even if that were definitely true, we cannot disentangle this from the fact that people living in the lithium triangle, where most of the lithium, or like 60% I think of the world lithium comes from, and lithium is needed for batteries because data centers need a lot of power. Like they get cancer at 50 times the national average, right? And this is in the same system. Like this is part of the same puzzle. Like we can't just say no, but X-ray scans though, right? Because some of those X-ray scans will then be produced by radiologists in the region that are overworked and overstressed about whether they are going to get fired when more AI is going to be introduced, or their colleague, right? Like some of those scans will come from there because we gave people cancer to maybe do cancer diagnostics better. And that's a very, very big maybe, and this is the case with every application of of all of these different systems that we call AI, because again, AI doesn't really cohere as a technical project, it coheres as a political project. It's a thing that does things faster and black boxes stuff. It puts everything into a black box so that you just open a browser tab and then you see this clean screen with just a window for you to input your text. And you don't need to think about all of this. It doesn't exist. It's in the cloud. It's magic. And also my favorite, right? Rely on ChatGPT at your Thanksgiving table to ease polarizing arguments at the dinner table, right? This is why we're burning the planet down. This is so worth it. We don't actually need to learn how to speak to people. We don't need to talk. We don't need to interact. One of my favorite examples, not on the slide, is something that like seemed very, very ridiculous just a couple of years ago when Google introduced 2 features to Gmail. One feature composes an email for you so that you don't have to write your email. Another feature reads that email for you on the other end so that you don't need to read the email. People never interacted in the system, right? Like there was no communication at all. This is silly. Like why? And again, like if the answer to the why is, but it helps me survive the day, but like maybe literally this day, right? But maybe we should at least aim to plan ahead a little bit more than one day, because then the bar is increased, right? And then also we have this problem of, the climate collapse. I don't know. AI is, as some claim, and I claim alongside them, isomorphic to fascism and to capitalist extractivist logic. Like the capitalist bit is obvious, the fascist bit is maybe a little bit less so. There's, like we can't possibly have a whole big discussion on how do we actually define fascism, because it is difficult to pinpoint, and that's sort of like part of that formula also. And it's the same with AI, right? Like this is one of the ways in which the analogy works. It's like what is it exactly? Is it ChatGPT? Because like before that we had a different kind of like tech stack that we were calling AI, and then we moved the goalpost a little bit, and like that's been continuing for again 7 decades. It's kind of hard to pinpoint, but like one of the ways that fascism is often theorized is that it is a violent response, a violent collective attempt to resolve the inherent contradictions built into capitalist liberal democracies when these contradictions become a crisis. It doesn't actually solve the thing, but it like applies like a very simple solution. It's all about like seductively, narcotically simple solutions that we can just go for when we realize we're in deep trouble, right? And this is what AI does. It's complicated in the sense that many people have been crunching many numbers with many computers that were probably kind of like unethically constructed to begin with, right? So like there's a lot of labor, like a lot of love also that goes into this, a lot of ingenuity. But it's very simple because this is DeepMind's mission. Fundamentally solve intelligence, harness it to solve everything else. And the way we're solving intelligence is just assuming that if we quantify everything and we put it into a very big computer, then everything will work out magically, sort of. And that's literally true because in the field people talk about AI being alchemy and black magic. Like there isn't a real plan there. It's not a science. It's pseudoscientific. It adopts the language of science. But like we should also talk about science a little more. So this is what AI is about. Very simple solutions applied at scale so that there's no time to think about anything. And again, removing context, right? Like it's and exercising power also. You remember, if you've been following this whole AI discourse, that OpenAI a couple of months ago introduced this new filter that would allow you to produce like a Studio Ghibli-esque image of anything. And like, there's a reason they picked it, like because of course it would go viral, but also because explicitly Miyazaki said ages ago, like in 2017, I think maybe earlier, right, that AI is. Does somebody remember the quote? I'm actually forgetting the quote, but like, no, because I saw you now. Yeah.
Like opposite to life itself, or
Yeah. It's yeah. Yeah, but the point is, he was very explicitly, very loudly against it. So of course they picked this to just show, like, we can do this. Like, what are you going to do? You can't stop us. Like, it doesn't matter what you wish for. It doesn't matter what makes sense. What makes sense is a lot of very simple solutions to the very real crisis. That's not a thing that I can go into at all. But they're really scared. Also, they're like the ideology behind it is very weird survivalist, like rebuilding of a Christian, Judeo-Christian God, but it's AI. It's like it's really bizarre because they're really scared because we're burning the planet down and everybody feels it. So, a couple of words about Weizenbaum. Should I be wrapping up? How much time? Okay. I will go on for as long as you are willing to listen, because there's honestly a lot of ground to cover. So Joseph Weizenbaum was one of the first sort of like big contributors to the project of AI, but also one of the first critics of AI. It produced Eliza, the very, very first chatbot to ever exist. I want to say it was in 1950 or 67, 66, says the slide. And it was very simple, right? Like it was a different paradigm of AI. It was like a bunch of simple rules that would try to interpret, like not interpret the question, but just like throw the question back at you. Oh, I had a dream about my mom last night. Why did you have a dream about your mom last night? And people still found it helpful. People still projected consciousness onto it, even when they like very much knew, they weren't actually believing that it's a living organism of any sort. But like we just can't help but anthropomorphize some things sometimes. And observing this effect that ELIZA started having in the real world, Weizenbaum very quickly, because he was a lefty to begin with, and lefties generally speaking are putting themselves into this very stressful position of trying to think about the world critically. And so he thought about it critically for literally 1 minute, that's all it takes, and was like, oh, wait, this is not good, right? It's not good because, and then he started developing a critique of AI, and for most of his later years, he was just doing that. And it was boiling down to two sort of main theses. One being that, the core idea being that AI is fundamentally conservative. First, because of its capacity to automate decision-making at a certain scale, right? And that makes it easier, even if we were to want to resist. It makes it easier to just, propagate a certain rule before anybody has the time to react. And secondly, because it narrows down our understanding of what it even means to be human and to be conscious. We start looking at this thing and we start going, I mean, it's not exactly like me, but it's a little bit like me. It's behaving weirdly a little bit like me. So it must be like me and I must be like it. And then we, in a very real sense, become more like a machine because we're looking at this machine and we go, well, this must be all that there is to be a human, and this is how we get to this, right? Like all intelligence is computable. It's all very simple. We just crunch a bunch of numbers, and this is what we also do, right? And then we stop remembering that we actually have free will and we can do things and we can have opinions about things. Right. And I think it's important that we act now for many reasons, because there's climate collapse, because there are many genocides. It's I almost feel bad whenever I use climate collapse to say this, because again, the apocalypse has been here for a while. It's just that we can still afford to not really pay much attention to it. But do you guys understand what this image portrays? It's one of the big problems with generative AI is that when you start putting synthesized AI-generated inputs or outputs rather, as parts of the training data set, models collapse very quickly into, not being able to produce images of dogs, but rather I don't know, like a cookie that was half-baked and then thrown on the wall and it's chocolate is dripping. And it's bad because this is sort of what is happening to our culture also at scale with so much AI-generated output. And again, remember, AI is not a new thing. Before we had that, we just had most of the internet being bad. You're needing to scroll through pages and pages of completely uninteresting paragraphs of text before you get to a recipe on a recipe blog, or SEO-optimized Forbes articles that don't convey anything. Right? We had that very thing before we had AI. It's a new manifestation of an old logic. So AI, to boil it down, is about three things. It thinks that faster is better and more is better. It thinks that context doesn't matter, it should be erased, should be destroyed. And that power is the only thing that is real. All of the benefits that we talk about when we talk about AI, they're sort of hypothesized, or maybe they're sort of there, but most of those claims can be disputed. But the harms are very much there. They are very obvious. They're very large scale. They're here to say it will get worse. And at the same time, it doesn't really solve a problem for which we don't already have a solution. The reason we haven't solved climate change, are you saying 5 minutes? Okay, we're getting there. Yeah. Don't worry. I mean, but that's part of the predicament, right? This is an important topic for us to talk about, but everybody is so strapped for time that the moment it's time to go, it's oh yeah, sorry, I have another appointment. The end of the world is gonna have to wait. And it's so AI doesn't really solve an issue. I'll try to keep in mind that we all live under the conditions of artificial scarcity of time. Sorry. AI doesn't really solve a problem. Well, let me try to move past the slide. And the cost to it is astronomical. It's just that, again, it's not very evenly distributed. It's distributed onto bodies that don't have as good of an access to a microphone as I do right now. And also, it is only possible because of these logics, right? Like AI does not exist outside of a patriarchal, colonial, capitalist, liberal state. Like it just doesn't. It cannot. There is like nobody in their right mind would agree to this, right? Like it only exists because we extracted a bunch of value without asking people if they agree to this and never, compensating them for it. Right. So like that's just not a problem that we can solve through technical means because it's not a technical problem to begin with. It's a political problem. It's a cultural problem. And so for a couple of minutes, I want to talk a little bit about what we can do. And the main thing that I want to try to communicate is that refusal is generative. So I know that after this, it'll be difficult to admit, but like, who here uses ChatGPT? I just need like a brave volunteer. Okay, perfect. Oh, it was not difficult at all. Everybody. Okay, all right. But like, anybody here uses it for, I don't know, for studying? Yeah? Would you like to tell me what would happen if, you didn't have access to it?
Oh, well, I think it would just take me long. It would just take me more time to like learn the same stuff because I would have to Google more and look
Right.
in other materials and stuff.
Okay, this is super helpful. I thought it was going to go one of two ways. It went one of the ways, not the other. The other way would have been, I would just ask a colleague, I would just ask a friend, I'd just make a study group, would like all do this together, right? It's but when we imagine that it doesn't exist, we go back to, okay, what was the previous techno fix? That's the one, right? Like that's the only thing for me to function in society, right? Like why do we not instead say, like I would just ask a friend. If I don't have a friend, I'd go make a friend. Like there's like a loneliness epidemic that Mark Zuckerberg noticed and is now saying, you guys, I have a solution. AI. You don't need to learn how to communicate with real human beings ever again. Really, why do we do this? We should stop doing this. Like refusal is generative because if we actually have to make something happen, we'll have to confront the fact that there are other ways, and those ways are ultimately better, right? Like it would make us a better programmer, a better writer, a better thinker if we weren't using it. The only reason we were using it is because of a mix of, oh, I'm so strapped for time, and also this is kind of a bullshit assignment anyway, whether it's work or study, right? And the truth of the matter is that it is, but we can still make better of it. In all more detail, I'm advocating for a politics of refusal, ridicule, resistance, refutation, and reclamation. I think we can just make fun of it, like I did a bunch in this talk. It's it's stupid how stupid it is. I think we should make that like clear to ourselves even by articulating it, by saying it out loud. And we can refuse, and we can instead rely on solidarity. We can instead build communities. We can instead say no to our boss, because sometimes we do have that capacity. I've been saying no to my boss a bunch, and it's been paying off beautifully. Thank you, Tibor. And also, like, I've been putting air quotes around AI because, like, it's not intelligent. It's not intelligent, right? Like, we can call it many other things, probabilistic automation, or something that is like a little more ridiculous. But like, let's just be accurate. Like, there's no intelligence there. It's okay for us to not have that fantasy realized. And we can also advocate for degrowth and work towards degrowth and exnovation and decomputing. Decomputing is Dan McQuillan's term. He's one of the prominent critics of AI, and it's sort of like it's mainly degrowth. Like it's the idea that we can just repurpose data centers. We don't need it. Like we can repurpose it for all sorts of community services instead, right? Like we can just have less compute power in the world. And if you allow me, I'll just continue for a tiny bit longer, and if you have to run, I'll understand, and I will almost not judge you. But let's zoom out just a little bit more, right? Because we zoomed out to the level of capitalism, then we zoomed out to the broader system of liberal democracy in which it is embedded. But I think we can go a little bit further. I think we need to. I think we have to go a little bit further because we need to solve this thing that is happening right now. The poly crisis, the absolute batshit thing that is happening, we need to actually resolve it. We need to not apply like another techno fix or another spatio-temporal fix, right? Like part of the logic of capitalism is that like it just relocates the crisis some other time, some other place, but like it doesn't actually solve them. We need to solve this because I don't know if there will be another chance. And so I suggest zooming out to the level of modernity. Modernity, again, we don't have time to like go into details about what it actually means from different standpoints or where it even started, but like to put it simply, and to quote from a book that I'm reading and liking a lot right now, Hospicing Modernity. Modernity is a single story of progress, development, human evolution, and civilization that is omnipresent. It's full of paradoxes of war, humanitarian support, ongoing colonialism, reconciliation, and goes on for a little bit. But the basic premise is this: like it's the story that we tell ourselves to make our own existence intelligible. That there's progress. We put resources to do more things faster, and this predates and is like a larger system, a broader system than capitalism or the state even. And I think we need to go to this level. I think we need to go to this level because we cannot expect capitalism, the state, or enlightenment, humanism, fix the problems that these very systems produced. We need to actually think outside of all of those boxes. And I would like to argue that modernity is a plum-pudding zombie. Sometimes my slides get a little bit too unhinged. I apologize for this. What I mean by this is that, as many probably know, in the year 1904, Joseph Joan Thomson proposed a model of the atom that came to be known as the plum pudding. In it, like the atom is conceived of as this like sphere of mass that is positively charged, and in it, like little raisins, there are negatively charged electrons. And that model didn't last very long. It was supplanted by one that seems to describe the laws of physics a little bit better, right? So when a model produces unexpected, unreasonable outcomes, the sensible thing to do would be to look to amend or abandon the model, right? And this is, like at its best, supposedly what science is all about. That's what it does, right? We see contradictory evidence, we change things to something else. It doesn't really work that way. Thomas Kuhn, a philosopher of science, notes that a lot. I know.
People might ask questions, or you?
We are so close, you guys. You have been very patient. I have been patient too because I really wanted to run and pee real quick before the start of the talk, and I didn't, right? Because I knew the time is short. So let's share the load for just 2 more minutes. Right, like Thomas Kuhn writes about how paradigm shifts happen in academia, and they don't happen the moment there's contradictory evidence, because once a certain model has been used for a long enough time, we start treating it as this is just how the world works, and then evidence that contradicts it needs to like it's either going to be discarded or it needs to sort of like make itself intelligible through the language of the current framework. And if it is not possible to keep the essence of that contradictory evidence through translation, then again the evidence is discarded. But eventually, a certain paradigm is toppled and replaced with another. And Thomas Kuhn calls this revolutionary science, that we have like periods of normal science and then periods of revolutionary science. So if we can do this in science, if we can have revolutions in science, maybe we need a revolution outside of science also, because the story of modernity does not make sense. Like there is so much contradictory evidence. Like there is no reason a system should exist that kills people and exploits people and prevents people from having access to better healthcare, so that we could maybe do things a little bit faster and make a funny meme that has like a very creepy number of fingers. Still, there's no reason this should be a thing, right? That's kind of my point. Like the answer to the question posed by the title of the talk, what AI means, what does AI mean for politics, civil society, and the climate, is that we need a revolution. We need to retire the zombie. We need to just put it to sleep and bid farewell and start making new stories about what we are here for and how we can coexist peacefully. Yeah, that's it. We can have some questions now.
I understand. Are you?
It doesn't amplify, it's just one.
Okay. Are you talking about generative AI or any sort of system that finds patterns from data? Because there is a big difference between these two, I think.
What's the difference?
Well, there's a lot of applications that are not as harmful as the ones that you mentioned.
Right. I mean, like we have the X-ray scans example.
Well, there are many other examples.
Right, like many others, but like for example, right, but like the problem doesn't go away. Like the system still doesn't exist without us saying, well, these people can get cancer at 50 times the national average. These people can spend their entire day like looking at racial slurs and child abuse content just so that we, the users, like of a certain system, don't. Like this is a different example because that's again like me talking about generative AI. But like with every computational system, that problem still remains. Like my thesis is that no tool is neutral, no tool is apolitical. Like this tool, AI, like as any algorithmic system, has this shape, like it has to make itself known to modernity, it has to make itself intelligible to modernity, and so it shapes itself up to modernity. A fundamentally cruel project about ranking bodies and saying these we can save and these we don't care about. And this is going to be true for any algorithmic system. The line then becomes, for me personally, like right now, this is a moving target, sort of like some versions of AI have been naturalized, right? Like some algorithmic systems have been around for long enough that they are very deeply embedded, or at least appear to be very deeply embedded into our lives. Some tools are much less so. Those latter tools should absolutely be rejected. Maybe the former ones are not justifiable either. Like, let's take the example of the internet. It also requires a lot of compute, generally speaking, right? Even if we were to remove all the AI nonsense. Right? So maybe an argument can be made that the internet is not justifiable on moral grounds, other than the fact that it's been naturalized so deeply that people will literally die overnight if we didn't have the internet. And a lot of other people would suffer a lot, right? Because for a lot of people, it's become the only way to actually
Okay, but
have a
I
community.
mean, I don't know. For example, let's take some AI system that makes simulations of flooding way faster than you'd get with the traditional computation. So this is a question of you have some system that allows for saving lives or saving that. It's not just, okay, it's a bit faster, so we don't really need it because it's just a bit faster. Like you're actually consuming less energy, time, and can have some actual impact on human lives. So why is this put in the same box as generating images of cats?
Well, because it's part of the same broader political project. Like the way that it works right now is that like you just can't have a computer that wasn't produced through means that are not much justifiable on moral grounds.
So should
right?
we just all not use computers anymore?
I think it needs to happen on a case-by-case basis. I think generative AI has no use case, but think about it this way. Like there are people that are now already swearing by chatbots as therapists, which is an awful idea for reasons that I don't think I need to go into anymore. Right, but like in a couple of years, they will be dependent on those because their lives would have like funneled them into the state where like this is just like the stable state of the system. People that don't have the financial means to go to like a to a human therapist will have to not have therapy at all. They will have to rely on this thing instead. And so some of these systems, like the more narrowly scoped ones, could be useful, but still like having been produced through harms to others. And with those, we just have to decide. But my broader point, like, really is that thing on the last slide. Like, we need a revolution because if we have a completely different story, if we retire modernity and we have a different story about how to structure society at large, how to live on this planet, it will be immediately apparent which systems we actually need and which we don't. Because right now, everybody's pressured into like selling what they have as like, oh, this is very accurate. And then we can, like, I haven't looked at this particular model, I haven't looked at this particular paper, but very often if you look at it for any length of time, it's like, oh, but like you sort of like picked maybe unintentionally ways of testing its efficacy that will have produced a certain result. Like, and that's like fundamentally a problem in statistics. This is how we got the replication crisis. Like, we can't replicate most social science studies, and like in other fields also that's an issue. Because even when people don't try to like cheat at statistics, like that's just how the tool works. And we can only evaluate it through that same tool. So there's like a limited insight that we have into how good a certain model can even be.
I don't know if that's true, but okay. I'll just, yeah.
Should I speak into this, or should I? Okay. Yeah. First of all, thank you for your talk, and I guess I also agree a bit with you, because when I look at climate data, then pattern recognition is very, very useful, and some AI based on that. But that's in the cases of icebergs, for example, or in cases of you look at permafrost areas where the ground is pattern recognition where you can recognize these threats that very useful. But then again, I also know that pattern recognition has been applied to municipalities here in Denmark, where you sort through citizens, and that of course is not okay. Where you look at patterns within a databases and sort through citizens' data. That's of course not okay. So I guess again, the use is also varies. Where I totally agree with your point, but I also kind of agree with what you're saying, that some of these AI systems, of course, you can base it on the user case, right, and base it on like how they were developed and so on. And and I guess my question is more therapeutic, and I will ask you to be my counselor, because what I experience is from my university, my educational institution, there is this expectation that I use AI a lot, and I'm also very much encouraged to do so by my professors, and I get better feedback when I run it through ChatGPT, because it's more smooth, or I feel like there is this, I can already now recognize the same like expressions and sentences that AI puts out, and I don't know if people then, because they recognize it, then likes it better, the way of expressing kind of things, also academically. And it does take more time to produce a whole, academic paper if you don't use AI. And I'm also expected to do so by, my peers, my group members. And they're like, oh, why didn't you just find some references using ChatGPT? So there's, I would say, with climate change, there's this systemic acknowledgement that climate change is happening, right? And that we should do something. Where I feel like not even from my professors, that are these highly critical thinking individuals, they don't even acknowledge this threat. So, and I know this is like being a citizen in a state that's also contributing to climate change, but I just feel very tiny. What should I do?
Right.
Sorry for this very, very long question.
Right. I mean, but one of the things that I suggest is literally building solidarity with other students. Like, maybe you're not the only person. Like, not just other students, like that is important, like locally, but also like activate your friend network. I have a friend with whom we, have like conversations about AI every few months, and every single time it's like, oh yeah, like I understand it's bad, blah blah blah. I shouldn't be using it probably, but like there was this one task that like I couldn't have done without it, and every single time it's like, no, I could have helped you in 5 minutes. Or maybe I'm lacking the particular expertise, but somebody else would have, right? And even if it takes a little bit longer, it will be an actually good thing, or if it's going to be bad, it's going to be bad for reasons that can be interrogated and understood. And it will also help you build community. It will like help you like train this muscle that helps us remember that when we don't have access to this techno-fix, we don't have to go back to another techno-fix. We can actually rely on each other instead, and we need to rely on each other. And another thing is that, yeah, I know it's hard, but like also, like let's think a little bit longer term. Like this thing will collapse, and it's not like we cannot afford to have this. Like we have to cut our power hunger by I don't know how much, but like by a lot. This is not meaningfully useful outside of a framework that makes it seem like every second saved, no matter the drop in quality, is justifiable and necessary, in fact, right? Outside of that framework, it doesn't make sense to use it because learning should be joyful and can be joyful. It's just not joyful under these conditions. But like the conditions will have to change because we have a global rise of fascism right now, because the right is recognizing that the world is ending. They just have like a very nasty solution to coping with this reality, and we need to do the same. We need to recognize that there is a crisis and then start doing something about it. And once it has collapsed, you will be so much better off because while your peers have been just not learning anything, in fact, unlearning thinking and writing and communicating and coding and whatever else, you have been doing the difficult but also worthwhile work of actually learning those things. Like Bell Hooks has this line in All About Love about how even if you're stuck in a job that you really hate, you should like still put like a lot of effort into what you do. And like my initial response has been like a little bit negative, a little bit like, American work ethics, sorry. It's just not like, quite quitting is what I'm all about. But like I'm actually, coming around on this a little bit, because like there's something worthwhile, like there's like an aspect, a facet of almost any line of work that is like, oh, like that's like a noble kind of thing in and of itself that is a useful thing. You can train that skill. You can't train that skill with AI. Yes, please.
Can I just suggest one last question and then we just move to the kitchen and anyone can ask questions anyways to Denise? Go for it.
Thank you so much. I love this talk, and I agree with you on anything you said, actually. I think the whole suppression and climate, and those are many of the things that concern me very, very much. I devour information that sort of tells me more about this. I'm also a university professor, and in that practice, I am terribly, terribly concerned for my students. I am so concerned that you unlearn, as you say, your critical thinking skills, that you forget how to read. Many of my students are already really poor readers when they come now. They're not used to reading complex texts, and they're not used to reflecting very much, actually, on it. And I am so concerned that they will outsource all of these very important competencies to generative AI. And so what I'm trying to do at my study program is building in structures that hopefully will help them pause, give them time to think twice and more. So building a new course is one of the things that we're doing. It's going to be called Digital Competencies in Danish Language Studies or Danish Studies. And I hope that for instance, one thing that we're going to do is to have a week where we only write things in hand and not use our computers, to reflect on the fact that we learn better and we remember better when we use our hands. But I also am going to need to show them all of the flaws in AI. So that is one of the things that I'm really struggling with, actually, on a very personal level, that I need to show them. So I need to use it. I don't want to ask them to do it. I don't think I will ever ask my students to actually use generative AI for any of their assignments, but I can show it on the screen so we can interrogate it together and discuss the many, many flaws and the big, big risk of trusting that confident voice that it has, especially when you know less about a subject, which you will when you're a student. You don't know as much as me. And I want to train my students. I don't want to train an AI. So that's all I had to say. I think it's terrible, and I really wish that this technology did not exist. If I could Thanos it away, I would.
Right.
Yeah. So thank you.
Thank you so much for this comment. Just like very, very quickly, it can stop existing, right? We should remember that like progress is like a philosophically constructed category. Like there is no train that is taking us from A to B. We are deciding, or like we stop deciding, or like nobody is actually running the ship right now. Like it's just like floating around in the ocean without anybody deciding on the direction, but we can start deciding on the direction. This is not a tool that is useful to us. It is a tool that is destructive, that is extractivist, that does violence, that allows for violence to be done. We can just refuse it, right? Because we have to, right? Because we know from like 150 years of Marxist thought that like we don't need to presuppose a single greedy capitalist to make the conclusions that we make about how cruel the system is. It will perpetuate its logic unless somebody just wakes up and goes, oh, well, like we can actually do things differently. We are actually the ones that should be deciding what is right and what is wrong. And so I like my mood right now is like we don't need to prepare for a future where AI is entirely inescapable, because it can't be, because like that will not be like there is no future in which that is the case. We either burn the planet down and then we go, oh yeah, like we can't actually afford to run these models, or we hopefully start it a little bit earlier. All right.
Beer and snacks in the kitchen.
Oh yeah. Thank you so much for your patience.